Hey, this is Marilyn Gigliotti.
Hey, this is Brian O'Halloran.
Hey, everybody. My name is Scott Schiaffo, actor best known as the Chulies Gum Guy from the film Clerks.
And welcome to Clerks Minute.
You're listening to Clerks Minute.
And I'm not even supposed to be here today.
Hello everyone and welcome to Clerks Minute, the show where we look back and break down the 1994 Kevin Smith classic, one cat and litter box minute at a time. I'm Blake. Kyle is off today, but I have a very special guest on the line all the way from the UK, from shooting Clerks. It's Chris Bain. Chris, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I'm very good. Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem at all. Thank you for taking time out. I know the time difference is a pain in the butt for us, so it works out nicely here.
Yeah, no, it's all good, man. It's all
yes.
good.
So we are here to not only talk to Chris about shooting Clerks, but also to look at minute number 27 of Clerks, which starts with Dante on the phone trying to find out about the article about Caitlin's engagement, and we see a cat in a litter box. And we end with Jay talking about his cousin, the metal singer, that wants to move to the big city to be a metal singer. What a weird transition that is in one sentence. So first things first, I go to you, Chris. What is your history with this movie?
With shooting Clerks. Okay, so a very micro history because it's a long story. I met Chris Downey, the writer-director, a good few years ago. He was making a short film about focusing on Jason Mewes' drug addiction when he was addicted to heroin. And one of the stories where he tried to stave off his heroin addiction by looking for a very rare Star Wars chase action figure, the Greedo doll. So he needed someone to play Jason Mewes, and I wasn't really an actor at the time. I did it here or there, kind of more of a hobby than anything else. So I met him, we did that. You know, we did okay with that, and then he said, I'm going to make a feature, do you want to play Jay in the feature? And I was like, yeah. And then that's really it. That's how I got involved in shooting Clerks.
Wow, that is actually really cool. What's it like to play a character like Jay, who's almost like a cartoon character of his own right in the real world? Yeah,
he is a little bit. You know, he's certainly very cartoonish in Clerks and the other Kevin Smith films that he's played. Jay, you know, it's certainly a lot of it is part of him, I guess, but it's definitely an exaggeration of his actual self. But it's a very fun character to play. You know, I loved playing Jay, especially in shooting Clerks. I just thought he was a really fun character to play. The thing that was difficult is that I was playing a real person as well. So, you know, I had to try and make it funny, make it memorable, that you know, Kevin and Jason fans would recognise it as Jason Mewes, but also make the character real, you know, and you know, make him an actual person as opposed to a caricature. So it was certainly difficult in parts. You know, I certainly found I had a lot of trouble perfecting the accent, as you can tell, because I don't sound American at all. But his accent is very distinctive at that, so that was quite challenging. But I think overall, I really enjoyed playing the character, and because I've played him over a few shorts in the feature, and I've done it over quite a few years, I feel that the character is kind of stuck with me a little bit more than other characters that I've played.
It is funny because you do have the heavy accent, and I'm actually from New Jersey, so yeah. I know the Jersey accent. There's just a different tone than most states, so it had to be a weird transition to go from your heavy UK accent to a Jersey accent.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of actors on set when we were doing the shoot, when we were doing shooting Clerks, a show over a period of a few months, and we actually shot near Dundee in Scotland. That's where the sets were. You know, like the Quick Stop and RST video, Kevin's childhood home and things like that. Predominantly the cast were British, so there was a couple of guys who found the accent challenging, would stay in character or at least stay with the same accent for a lot of the shoot. I didn't have the same difficulty in that respect, but I would usually, there would always be a few lines I would do before a take to get into character. But I'd spent a lot of time studying Jason and, his mannerisms, the way that he speaks, the way he holds himself. I think I listened to pretty much every podcast that he and Kevin had recorded. Just to, especially for the voice, of course, with the podcast, all you're hearing is audio. So that was very helpful with his accent, although his voice has changed from what it was when I play him in Shooting Clerks as to what it is now. But, there was, I must have went through a period of maybe 3 to 6 months where I was just trying to perfect my depiction of him. But yeah, certainly I found the accent pretty challenging, but I got to the stage when we were doing the shoot that I was pretty comfortable with it, and I think the film's being received fairly well, and I think my performance has been given, people have been pretty kind about it, so I think hopefully I've done a good enough job.
That sounds awesome. Who played Kevin on the other half of you?
That was an actor called Mark Frost.
Oh, very cool. I do want to see this movie. It's one of those things where it's on my list and I have to see it.
Yeah,
that's the problem with being in Milwaukee. I didn't get to see a screening. Yeah,
well, we've had a couple of screenings in Jersey. I wasn't at the one in August this year, just gone. I was actually shooting a TV show here in the UK, and I had a play that I was doing for 3 weeks. So I was really busy and I couldn't get away, unfortunately. But we had the screening last November in Jersey, in the theatre where Kevin used to watch movies growing up, which was really cool. And we had a lot of the Clerks guys there. We had people like Brian O'Halloran, Scott Schiaffo, Ernie O'Donnell. We had loads of them there, which was great. And the film it's been, as I say, we've only had preview screenings. We've had one in Edinburgh, where I'm from, at the Edinburgh Comic Con, and all the other screenings have been in the States, and it's been pretty well received so far. So yeah, I think there's going to be a few more preview screenings, and we're hopeful that the film will be released soon. I don't really know when, but hopefully maybe before the end of the year.
Yeah,
hopefully.
I'm looking at Wikipedia, and there's still no date. The closest I have is like July 8th or something like that of this year, but that didn't seem right either.
Yeah, it's definitely not out yet, but it's I think they're working on something, so hopefully it'll be released soon, because I've done a lot of productions, and I've been fortunate that I've been cast in a lot of different things, but Shooting Clerks is certainly a film that I'm very passionate about, and I'm really proud of it as well. I think it's a really great story, and I think what Chris and Brett and Ryan and everyone who's worked on it has done is quite remarkable. To shoot an indie feature film with a very small budget, with a cast of, I don't know, maybe 50, maybe 60 people over 2 continents, and which is essentially a period film as well. So they've really achieved the unachievable almost. But it's a film that I'm really proud of, and I think it's something that I hope everyone does get to see at some point. Because I think, objectively speaking, taking away that I'm in it, I genuinely think it's a really great piece of cinema. It's
funny. You just said the 90s base is a period film, and that made me feel a little old.
Well, I was born in 1987, so yeah, I'm not like a spring chicken myself, but essentially it is now like a period film. Essentially you couldn't really shoot it with, I guess, sets and costumes from now, because it would look off. So I guess in the sort of loosest sense, it is kind of a period film,
Yeah, it's just funny. It's just pretty funny. I was born in 82, so.
All right, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
well,
so
not
for
much
me,
difference.
Yeah, it's just because I actually watched this movie on Clerks itself on a VHS tape, so.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so. Well, what's your history with the actual movie Clerks itself? Are you a fan of the movie? Are you a fan of the VS2 universe?
I am now. Massive Kevin Smith fan now, but again, that would have all been because I just spent a lot of time researching it, before we shot the film. But my experience with Kevin Smith I didn't have much experience growing up. I think when I was in high school, someone had lent me Mallrats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think that was the first Kevin Smith film that I'd seen, and I love Mallrats. I've always been a big fan of Mallrats. Then I think it was Jay Silent Bob Strike Back. I think a scene after that. And I didn't really realise at the time that Jay and Kevin were the same guys in Mallrats. I didn't even know that Kevin Smith was Silent Bob.
Wow.
For a long time, yeah, I didn't. I was like, I knew the name, but I didn't know who he was. And there was a couple other Kevin Smith films I'd watched when I was younger. I think I'd seen Chasing Amy and Dogma. But again, I didn't quite realise that it was all a connected universe. Again, I didn't know Kevin Smith had penned, all these films. But certainly now, from researching Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith and things like that, I've got much bigger appreciation for what he's done. And I've watched a lot of the films now. I've seen Clerks a lot of times. Again, just in preparation of when we did shooting Clerks. But I've got bigger respect, bigger appreciation for Kevin now. And as I say, I've rewatched a lot of the films back. And just, I think because I'm older, they appeal to me a lot more now as well.
Yeah, I can. It's pretty funny actually, because I just thought about this just now for the first time. I'm surprised this didn't come up before. That Kevin was ahead of its time when it comes to the View Askew universe, because now we're living in a world with like the MCU and the DCU where everything's connected, and Kevin was ahead of his time and did that before it was cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of things Kevin did was not really considered cool. So, but yeah, definitely it wasn't something that was really a thing back then, but it certainly is now, as you say, with Marvel and DC, and even just, I can't even think of any other franchises, but there's a lot of franchises now that have that shared universe, which it wasn't a thing before, was it?
No, it wasn't, and it's actually pretty cool. What's it like to work with Kevin Smith for this movie? Did you actually get to meet him and work with him?
So Kevin took a bit more of a back seat with this sort of production. I mean, it is all predominantly, it's Chris Downey, Ryan James, Brett Murray. These guys who had helped piece this feature together. I think originally Kevin was going to take more of a predominant role in the film, but then he took a step back, I think, a little bit. I don't know too much about it, but as far as I understand, he didn't want to be too involved because even though he'll admit himself he is, the number one Kevin Smith fan, I think he thought it was maybe a little bit too pretentious, having a big part to play in your own biopic. But he's been helpful in the way that if they've needed help with anything or advice and whatnot, I think he's been quite forthcoming in that respect. I mean, he and a lot of the original Clerks guys have cameos in the film. We met Kevin a couple of years ago. He was doing a show in Manchester, which he wasn't coming up to Scotland, where we are based. But the nearest was Manchester, which is like a 5-hour drive from Edinburgh. And he invited us to come see the show. He was like, come see the show, we'll give you comp tickets, you can meet us after. So that was pretty exciting. We met Kevin for the first time, and I met Jason as well, which is always, I think, interesting for any actor to meet the person that you play, in a film or whatnot. So that was quite interesting. But he's a really lovely guy. Obviously likes to talk, as do I. But it was kind of somewhat surreal meeting him, but a really, really nice guy. The director, Chris Downey, had said that, don't ever, the old adage, don't ever meet your heroes. But then Chris said, unless your hero is Kevin Smith.
I like that rule. I like that one.
Yeah.
I've met Jay Mewes personally, actually. They did a Jay and Silent Bob Get Old here in Milwaukee. It was actually connected with the Super Groovy cartoon movie. They did a screening of the movie, and then they did Jay and Silent Bob Get Old. And they came here, and Jay, to his credit, and I will give him full credit for this, it was pouring rain after this show was over. And we decided we're going to go outside. We found where they parked the bus. They parked the big bus outside the building, and we all hung out outside underneath this canopy, but it's raining. Jay, to his credit, there was an hour-long thing inside for VIPs. He came out and made sure every single one of us got pictures and autographs. And there was a good 30 to 40 of us outside. And it was so nice of him to do.
I think that's just the kind of guys they are. They just... I think Kevin especially really appreciates where he is. A lot of people don't. in that sort of industry. And one thing that sort of stood out to me was we screened Shooting Clerks in Orlando at the Orlando Film Festival, and I was fortunate enough to attend with some of the cast and crew. And we were in Florida for about a week for the screening.